don't like me, that's your problem. When I let it bother me, that's my problem. And I got enough problems. I got enough. I got the sauce, you got the salt. But I care what you think about me, cause I don't think about you at all. Real ones, they don't talk about you, they talk to you. When they can't miss you, that's when they take a shot. Cause you when they throw stones, then you know they don't rock with you. Don't you ever let them know that the talk got to you. Ooh, I'm about my business, father, my family, my hitters. Never paid my bills, so why pay attention? That's none of my business. What
right.
you think about me? That's
Somebody gonna tell me
my business. What they say about me?
right now?
That's none
Should just start talking.
of my business. That's none of mine. That's none of my business. That's none of mine. We don't really care what you talking about. That's none of my business. What they say about me? That's none of mine.
What is up? Welcome to the How to Stay Married large group. We are so glad that you are joining us online here. My name is Travis, if we've not met before, and we are glad that you are here with us. I just wanted to welcome you. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. And so while we were waiting, I was thinking maybe I'll share a little bit of a personal story, maybe about what the topic is going to be tonight. And so I was thinking through that, and I actually didn't know what the topic was, so I asked our speakers, so what is it that we are talking about tonight? And they said, we're going to talk about sex. And so I was like, maybe not a personal story in the opener. So we're not going to do that. But instead, I thought that we could talk about fashion. And so I'm wearing a pretty slick jacket. But one problem with my brand new jacket here is that the zipper is on the wrong side. And somebody told me if the zipper is on the wrong side, then it's actually a woman's jacket. And I don't know what to say about that other than I think they're wrong. I hope they're wrong. The man on the internet was also wearing this, so I think it's a men's jacket. But it brought up a very important point. And maybe at your tables, in person here, and online, you can talk with your spouse and comment in the comment box. Who is the more fashionable of the two? Is it the husband or the wife? Who is the most fashionable of the two? And maybe say why. Wives, if you shop for your husband, you can say your husband and still get the credit. I just wanted to share that with you as well. I'll go first. Me. I am the more fashionable of the two. I'm just kidding, of course. I love my very beautiful and fashionable wife. But we're gonna get started here in just a moment. We're gonna get to hear from Rick and Val, and then our lead pastor Adam and his wife Becky tonight. And again, we are gonna talk about sex. So I would say get excited, but that's weird to say on that topic. So just be engaged and ready for a fun night. We're so glad that you're here. Hope that you enjoy it.
I'm turned on. That's a good thing. On a night when we're going to talk about sex, I'm turned on. All right. So, hey to everybody online. I'm glad that you've joined us tonight for talking about sex. Becky said today, cue salt and pepper. I don't know what that means. I think I'm too old, but there must be some good salt and pepper song. Anyways, if you're online and you don't have a pencil or a pen and a paper, go do that right now. I'm going to say hi to you guys. Glad you're here. Brave, you're brave. I could feel winter tonight when I got in my car. So thanks for getting in your car to come out and join Adam and Becky and Rick and I tonight. We're just thrilled that you are all here.
If you go to Starbucks, learn their drink. Like when you go to the drive-thru, learn what they like to drink at Starbucks. It'll blow our mind. It will, because that's a hard drink. They're very complicated. Men are easy at Starbucks. You ever go to the drive-thru? Can I help you? Yeah, give me a Mate coffee, no cream. Honey, what do you want? Okay, here's what I want. Listen, this is what I want. I want a tall, skinny, sugar-free, decaf, soy, vanilla latte, extra hot, whipped cream, double sleeve, no cup. Please tell me you got that, please. I'd like to change my order to a large whiskey, just a large cup of whiskey, because I'm gonna drive away and off a cliff. I don't want it to hurt so bad. And a blueberry scone.
And then when I met my wife, it was just amazing. It was love at first sight. She was walking across this field, and she just looked right at me, which I thought was weird, because I thought, I was hidden by the bushes. But... love knows no boundaries. She looked right into my binoculars. And so we got married. It was awesome. She changed her name. I was eventually able to find her.
Lori and I figured it out. We figured out what the source of conflict is. We know what causes the two of us to fight. It's me. I remember the first fight I caused. It was right after we got married. And I wanted to go out with the guys, just me and the guys, out like we used to. And she wanted me to stay there with her and cut the cake and throw the bouquet and all that.
Oh, ladies, don't you moan at that. How dare you moan at that? It's not fair. Sometimes my wife gets mad at me for behaving wrong in her dreams. I had a horrible dream last night. You want to hear about it? No, I'm going to tell you anyway. A grizzly bear was chasing me through the woods with his teeth. He was going to eat me. And you did nothing. You just sat there and you didn't do a thing. What was I doing? You were playing poker with a rabbit. That's what you were doing. And that's the thing. You would do something like that. You would play poker with a rabbit while I was being eaten by a bear. Luckily, a giant unicorn came and saved me with his laser horn. That's how I saved, not by you.
All right, guys, you got that order down for Starbucks? And girls, I think we need a cup. I really think we should keep the cup. So hopefully everybody got back from getting their pencil and their pen online. We're glad you guys are with us. The topic tonight, once again, in case you missed it, because Travis was not quite brave enough, the topic is sex. That's good. It's a good topic. And there's a 59-year-old girl here and her 63-year-old husband here, and we're going to talk with you about sex. So, point number one, you can have sex at 59 and 63. We might be getting older, but we are having sex. Isn't this fun? Oh, good. And wait for it. Really seriously, wait for this. There are no kids in our house. You heard that correctly. No kids. So keep investing in your marriages. Everybody online and here, invest, give your marriage attention, because there comes a day when there are no kids. None. The door to the bedroom can remain open. Nobody will be standing outside the door frame asking, "What are you doing?" Oh, nothing to interrupt us. It's good, isn't it, Rick? He loves this, doesn't he? All right, so that was important information for you guys to know. But the words that we're about to read from God's Word, so much more important. So please listen very carefully. Do you want to read too, or do you want me to just read them? Okay. We're going to read 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 5. If you have your Bibles, great, open them up. If you don't, there are pens and paper. At least write down 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 5, so that you can have those marked by the time you get in bed tonight. Because they say this, verse 3 says, "The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband." Verse 4, "The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but to his wife." And verse 5 says this, "Do not deprive each other except," I'll just go right back to the beginning of that. "Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control." Awesome words for marriage today, written what? How many years ago, Adam? Hundreds, right? I mean, it's like somebody wrote that yesterday to me. Those are such great words. Paul was the one who wrote, and he was writing to the Corinthians. And the country of Corinth was loaded with sexual immorality. So Paul was making sure to help these people understand they needed boundaries. And they needed those boundaries then, and we need those boundaries today. And I just think it is the coolest thing that God's Word is practical hundreds of years later. There was a summer in Rick's and my life. Our girls were in high school. Our son was in junior high, and they had friends around in the evenings. It's summer, after all. And Adam might have been one of those kids that was hanging around our house, actually. And so the nights would get long at our house on those summer nights with kids around. At our house, we liked making shakes, malts. And kids like shakes and malts, as it turned out. And we liked having kids in our own home. But Rick needed to go to work early in the morning. And I was an at-home mom. So I stayed up when Rick went to bed. And when Rick got up in the morning, I stayed in bed. So you get the idea here. There's not a whole lot of time for sex. And so my mind found itself more focused on the kids and not as focused on sex. And girls, I just want to say again, this is a trap. This is a trap for us. How often do we find ourselves putting the children before the men in our lives? So, I was okay with the way this was going, but oddly, Rick wasn't quite as good. The way you remember it? Mm-hmm. So, but I'm going to say this. I have a husband who is patient. He was very patient. But I'm also going to say this. The longer you go without sex, the easier it is to go without sex. Right? I mean, I'm hoping I'm not talking to people who don't get this. I think I should be talking to people who do get this. So Rick ended up at a men's retreat that summer. It was a great men's retreat. And there were verses that were shared there at that retreat by a specific speaker. And the verses were 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 5. We had a nice conversation when he got home. And it became very clear that something needed to change. We needed more of each other, lots more of each other. And so, sex in the morning it was. That's where we went with that. And I want you to know that I am married to the coolest guy who buys mints and keeps them right beside the bed. Which, by the way, now we have grandchildren, and they asked us why there's mints by the bed. Do you remember? Yes? Okay. Anyways, so the mints are by the bed. And you remember who was here last week? Raise your hands, quick like. The menopause thing? Well, it's great that you don't have to do your period, but it sucks when it comes to sex. So we also keep a little KY jelly close by too. Isn't this fun? I'm just telling you the facts here, kids. This is
I'm
the
sorry,
facts.
Rick. Rick, I'm sorry.
I mean, let's just hear it for the company that thought of KY jelly. I think it's great because I'm in menopause and I'm pretty sure nobody else is. So anyways, that's just the facts. I am also grateful while we're all uncomfortable, except me, I'm not uncomfortable at all. I'm also grateful for a husband who has a stronger sex drive than me. You might have thought it might went the other way, but it does not. He has a stronger sex drive than me, and I'm thankful for that. It hasn't always been that way. I told you last week I like to have control. Well, I tried to have control of that too. So as I prepared tonight, I found out that the number one concern in couples about sex, and the thing that we argue the most, is that there is an unbalanced desire for sex. And by the way, ladies, sometimes we're the problem. We want more than they want. But I'm guessing in most households it goes the other direction. So my encouragement to you tonight is stop fighting. Stop fighting about sex. Find ways to just create a better atmosphere. Maybe husbands or wives need to help relieve some stress. If it's kids, dinner, whatever it is, and say that you'll do the dishes, whatever it might take. Or maybe the libido is just slow, and maybe it turns out it's a medication. Then let's call the doctor and find a new way. Find a system for keeping the kids either occupied or just figure out systems, communicate. Rick and I laugh a lot about the fact that he's a microwave. He can warm up, boom, like that. I'm a crock pot. Right? Is it okay if I look at you now? Okay, so I'm a crock pot. I need more of the snuggles. I need time to talk. It's lovely when Rick says, could we just go for a walk? Oh my gosh, he's gonna get something tonight. Because, I need that. That's just the way it goes. I guess I should maybe feel bad or something, but no, that's just who I am. I kind of need that time. Well, anyways, I need to close up because we took all Rick's time last week. But I just want to say that I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm really grateful that you're willing to talk about sex. Well, it's a whole lot easier when you're online out there. I want you to know that. So it's just not the easiest topic. And it's hard even for couples to talk about it. But talk about it. It's so important, and your marriage needs you to give it that attention. And I'm going to stop where I started last week. Please, pray about your sexual life. I am here to tell you, you can get horny praying. Serious. I'm serious. If I'm praying about this topic and I'm praying about the things I'm grateful for about Rick, when I do those things, my mind changes, the Lord changes my heart. It's good. Pray about your sex life. Girls, I'm sort of mostly looking at you because it's important. And I'm glad that the Lord cares, right? I mean, he cares about our sex life. It's a good thing. There you go, darling. Oh, you've got your phone.
I just want to add too, if you can't talk about it here, then where else are you going to talk about it? I mean, really, like in the church, like this is where we're supposed to talk about it. And I know it's funny when we talk about it because it's a little bit awkward, but at the same time too, if we're not going to talk about it here, then, I mean, we're going to find out other things, other places, but we should be talking about it here. So tonight, I'm probably going to be specifically speaking to maybe more of the ladies, but guys, you can listen in too, and those of you online too. When we think of sex, we need to have the right mentality. A little bit about my history. I grew up going to church. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up in the church, and I honestly don't remember hearing a lot about sex. It wasn't talked about a ton. And to me, it almost made it seem like that we shouldn't talk about it, like it was some sort of bad thing that needed to be swept under the rug. And maybe some of you can relate to this. The combination of, for me, giving myself physically to someone too early on, maybe in high school, and plus feeling like sex was a bad thing really affected how I see it. And I've brought that, I guess I brought that into my marriage. I brought guilt, I brought shame, and feeling like it's not something that is to be enjoyed. But it is supposed to be enjoyed, and there is a purpose for it. And looking at the verses we're talking about tonight, which Val read through earlier, there is a reason that the Lord tells us to do this in these verses. Like, excuse me, I'm just kind of looking at the verses for a second here again too. We don't have authority over our own bodies like we're like this now. We're one and not depriving of each other except for if you've agreed to it or for prayer, and then come together again so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Again, there's a reason that he tells us to do this in these verses. It's deeper than just a physical act. I'm going to say this, and I know maybe some of you ladies feel like this. This is just how I felt about it too, but sex is not a burden. I think I act like that sometimes. I'm sure Adam can kind of, maybe I should, putting him on the spot. If he's wise, he'll say it. I don't do that, but.
No comment.
It's not something that's bad either. I feel like we just have the wrong mentality about it sometimes, and I speak on this because it's been true for me, not because I know everything. Sex is something that should strengthen your marriage. It shows that the two of you have become one, and it increases intimacy. It protects you from temptation if your sex life is active in your marriage, and it is good. And this is the best part. Ultimately, the Lord created it to show us more of himself. I've been looking at this. It's a devotional on the YouVersion Bible app. It's called God, Sex, and Your Marriage. And I just wanted to read a quote from it. It's so good. I would recommend you guys looking this up too if you have a chance. But the quote says this: sexual intimacy is a powerful picture of the gospel, of the degree of intimacy and ecstasy we are capable of having with God. The Christian marriage is designed to showcase this masterpiece. I mean, this is why the Lord is telling us it should be an important part, and we should have a healthy perspective of sex. And I'm not sure what your thoughts are about it, but I think it's important to take a look at this. What are your honest feelings? Like, you need to, if they aren't in line with what the Lord says about sex, we need to change that. We need to process that with him. I can't even tell you how many times I've probably had to go before the Lord and be like, Lord, I have a really bad attitude about this. And I just want you to know, if you have baggage from past experiences, we need to deal with that too. You don't need to carry it, which I think a lot of times we do carry that and bring that into our marriages. The good news is we have a healer in Jesus. He wants to redeem it. He wants to use your sex life for good. One more thing that I found in this devotional on the Bible app, it was so interesting. They talked about Jesus had healed a lot of people, physical wounds, but he also ministered to women with sexual brokenness. And they talked specifically about the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery. I mean, he cared about them. He cared about these unseen things that they were going through, not just the physical stuff. Like, he healed that too. And he cares about you being healthy too. He wants to heal you. And sex is a life-giving thing. It is powerful. And again, it can be destructive in the wrong situation, but in the right situation, it is beautiful. And just closing for me tonight, I'm praying that each one of us would take our thoughts about sex and just ask Jesus to align them with how he sees it, and that we would just understand his purposes for it. Because I think when I can understand just the amazing purpose he has for it, it brings a whole new level to it and brings a whole new meaning to what sex should be. So that's all I have, and I'm going to hand it off to Adam now. Be careful.
That was so good. What was the name of that devotional again?
It's called, it's in the YouVersion Bible app if you have that downloaded on your phone. It's called God, Sex, and Your Marriage. And it's like a 21-day devotional. It has a little devotion, and it takes you through like scripture passages and every day.
Beck's been literally doing screenshots of it. It's been so powerful. So I want to encourage people to go and find that. So tonight I'm going to share just a couple of quick things on protecting your sex life and also pouring into your sex life. And I just have to say, and I'm actually being serious here. Beck and I have been married for 16 years, and oftentimes sex has been a place of friction and a place of disagreement and a place, honestly, of frustration. And I just want to say, and again, I say this wholeheartedly, that this past year has been the greatest years sex-wise that we've ever had. And I just want to say that as a word of encouragement, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, if you as a couple, it's a place of anger or disappointment or whatever, I just want to tell you, like, God, absolutely be praying for it, because I can honestly say it. We've had the best year in that area ever, and I give thanks to God for that. So I just want to say that as a word of encouragement. So a couple quick things, again, these are kind of random points on protecting your sex life and also your marriage. I think for all of us, in person, online, I would just challenge us to guard it, to protect it, to watch over it, our sex life. It's so important that we do that, and that we never kind of lower our guard. We are always susceptible to this. A pastor that I have great appreciation for, great respect for, it just came out this past week that he had an affair. And for me as another pastor, that's not like, oh, of course, like another pastor. That breaks my heart. And it also puts the fear of God in me, not just as a pastor, but as a human, as a husband. It puts the fear of God in me of like, gosh, I never want to lower my guard, because it'd be so easy in year 17 for that to happen to me. And so different things that I had for protecting your sex life. Nothing will kill your sex life faster than pornography. And that's something true for men and also true for women. Nothing will kill your sex life faster than pornography. And I think at the heart of that, it's comparison. Comparison of your spouse, their body, what they do, sex, how it is, like how fulfilling it is. Nothing will kill your sex life faster than pornography. And I also want to say the same is true if a woman has her clothes on and yet you're looking at her sexually. It's not just the blatant porn. It's also the explore button on your Instagram. It's like, no, she's got her clothes on. I'm not looking at anything wrong. Yeah, for you it actually is wrong. And so I just want to say that. Here's the word of encouragement. There's grace, though. And so just speaking to the wife or husband who is struggling, there is grace. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. I just want to throw out a lifeline to you. If that's you, that doesn't mean your marriage is over or you suck as a spouse. That just means in that area of your life you need help and you can't do it on your own. And so just tonight as a person, again, I still don't feel like a pastor in a lot of ways. I'm just a husband, a follower of Jesus trying to figure it out. I just want to throw that lifeline out to you. Speak to somebody, reach out, talk to your campus pastor, talk to a friend, talk to another guy who you know that loves you and loves Jesus, another girl who knows that you know that they love you and loves Jesus, and to say, hey, would you encourage me? Would you challenge me in that area? Nothing will kill your sex life faster than pornography. Secondly, I just want to challenge us, if we're married, the whole flirting with other people other than our spouse is over, okay? It's not okay. Even if you don't have a sexual affair, an emotional affair is just as big a deal. And when you get married, there's different things that change in your relationships. I know for me, it was the day that I no longer was buddy with other females in my life. What does that mean? Do you not respect whatever? And are you weak? Yes, I am weak, first off. And secondly, no, I'm doing it to respect the woman in my life, my wife. It's not a degrading thing. Instead of it's a respect thing. And it's also, I'm a human thing. And so it just changes things. No longer am I sharing deep, personal, private things with a person of the opposite sex. In different fields, I know one of my closest friends is a realtor. And so it's like I actually have to put myself in different positions with a female, and it's just us showing a home. And so there's different circumstances. Even for myself, one of the rules that I've set in my life is to meet with a gal in the church maybe twice, and then the third time, hand off that relationship to another woman who can speak into her life. And that might seem old school. I'm old school. That might seem like, gosh, aren't you stronger than that? No, but I'm not stronger than that. I'm actually very, very human. And again, my respect for her is so much greater than that. You have to kind of figure out what it is for you. My wife has full access to my calendar. Anytime I meet with another woman, it's on my calendar, so she knows exactly who I'm with. If I meet with somebody, I try to meet with them in public instead of private. If I do it in private, my door's open. My phone, she can look at my phone anytime she wants to. My email, she can look at my email, my text messages anytime she wants to. Again, I'll just say it for us as a guy, that's just another built-in guideline in your life. Another thing you don't have to try to hide, because at any point she can grab your phone and you're not trying to get it out of her hand because of what she might see. Instead, she can see it all. And so that's another thing. So that's really just the challenge that I have for us as far as protecting our marriage and protecting our private life. Now, just a couple of quick things when it comes to pouring into your sex life. And this is going to be mainly for the men that are listening right now. Kind of an honest comment. I know it's not 100% true, but women, if the man in your life is not wanting sex, I'm not kidding. It's a fairly big red flag for me. Either it's something medically is taking place and your husband's embarrassed about it. I know there are men who just do not have a sex drive, and so that might be true of your spouse. But for me, it would be a huge red flag if all of a sudden my husband is not interested in me. And so I can't say that just strongly enough. It's an important deal for husbands. It's a critical area to work on, to speak openly about. Sex should never be something that you have to earn. Yes, you can warm up the crock pot, but it shouldn't be I earn you. It also should never be a bargaining tool in the middle of an argument. Again, I feel like sex is such a holy thing, and Satan would love to turn it into a weapon of some kind. And so I just want to share that. But challenges to the men who are listening: look for ways to serve your wife, and that's something I'm a work in progress. loving her in the non-physical ways, whether that's buying flowers or whether that's writing a note. For my wife, it's actually being a father to my children and helping them, getting them ready to bed at night, and not seeing that as her job, but it's both of our jobs together, doing the dishes, taking out trash. Words isn't a huge thing for my wife, but gosh, if I buy her Starbucks coffee, it's a huge deal. Or if I get her a gift card, like that's her love language. And so doing those things as much as I can do. Or flowers. She always jokes when I get her flowers, I've actually bought myself flowers. I love flowers. She's like, can you just save the $15 and not give me flowers? And true story, right? Very true story. I also want to say these verses are not the basis to abuse your wife sexually. And I want to say that really, really strongly and clearly. It'd be easy for a broken dude to say, don't use these verses as a weapon to do whatever. Treat your body as if they are the temple. That's the true of your wife as well. And so if there's not respect there, those verses don't apply to you anymore. Husbands, like that's something you need to work through, because nowhere in Scripture, nowhere in the heart of God is us taking advantage of our wife sexually, challenging her to do stuff that she doesn't want to do. That's a communication, that's a conversation, that's not an abuse thing. I think also something I've been learning is communicating the needs sooner. If I'm able to let her know, hey, tomorrow, would that be cool if we did this? Or like later on today, instead of more the 5-second approach of like, hey, what do you think? You know what I'm saying? I also think just the importance of talking about it and just communication and just doing that. But just like Becky said, what an important conversation to have within the church and to talk about it openly. And I think it's one of God's greatest gifts that he's given us. And I think the world loves to say, like, we actually developed this. No, you didn't. You couldn't have figured out something so awesome. Like, you don't have the rights to this. You don't have the ability to tell us how to use this, because only God does. And so that'd be my word of encouragement. Protect it at all costs. Men, protect your eyes. Protect the things you say, the things you do. If there's somebody in your life that you know you're attracted to and she's not your spouse, tell a friend to say, hey, I know this is a relationship that I'm interested in. I cannot be in the same room with this person. Same true with the women. If there's somebody that you know you're attracted to their personality, you know you're attracted to them physically, that should be the same moment that you tell a close girlfriend, hey, this isn't okay for me. Like, sometimes there's things in our life that are not like blatant sin, that are clearly like God's like, do not do that. And we love to kind of blur the lines and push it as far as we can. I'm to the place that I want so many guardrails in my life so I know exactly where the road is. I want to stay right in the middle of the road because I know how imperfect I am and how easy it is to get in the ditch. I'll kick it to Rick.
Just a couple of quick opening statements, and then I'll jump into a couple thoughts. We're old enough where some of our children could be watching this. So, kids, I just want you to know your mother is sorry for a number of things that she said. And then if our grandchildren happen to be watching, Nanny is very sorry that she said several things just a little bit ago. So anyway, just need to get that out. Valerie and I have been married 37 years, and it's been wonderful. I mean, we have not had a perfect marriage by any stretch, but it's been wonderful. And I'm grateful for it. I thank God for it. We thank God for it. And it's just been a great thing. And part of my remarks tonight are going to be essentially hang in there. You know, hang in there. Because there's going to be times in your marriage when it just doesn't feel all that great. And in kind of reflecting on what I wanted to say tonight, I thought of our marriage kind of in 3 acts. Act 1 is when you first get married. And in addition to being newly married, which means everything's kind of fresh and new, it's like the spring of the year, it's green, everything's growing. It's kind of a fun time. There's freedom from your parents, so there's a little bit of an independence that you have of kind of like we're our own people now. Fewer responsibilities. You don't have the career hanging over your head as much as you will later on in your marriage. You're physically healthy. You have no children in the home, or even a little later on, you have small children in the home. And unless you're just not very creative at all, some of you have figured out how to have sex when your kids are really close by, but they're little and they don't understand what you're doing. And some couples have been able to do that, and so that's fine. No kids or really young kids still give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom. Sex is not only legal, you no longer have the guilt of like, well, should I be doing this or not? But it's permissible, and frankly, it's encouraged. And so the first, whatever it is, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 12 or 15 or whatever that number is for you, that's kind of Act 1. And really, also it sets for the man anyway, and maybe for the woman, unrealistic expectations of what your sex life is going to be going forward. Because you start to think the rest of our life is going to be like this. And then guess what? Act 2 comes. And Act 2 is when the kids get a little older. They start to take up more of your time. They stay up later. They ask more questions. They're more invasive in your private territory. Your career becomes much more important to you. You start making more money. Maybe you're buying bigger houses. You're buying different cars. You're trying to figure out how to pay for kids' college. Children that were quiet and innocent are now mouthy and disrespectful. And all these things are happening around you. And we wonder why sex is difficult. We wonder why I don't have those same feelings that I had 10 years ago or 12 years ago. Not to mention, physically, we're not getting any better, right? It's like harder to keep up physically, right? We lose our little bit of energy. We don't look as good as we used to look. And so there's just a lot of factors at play that make Act 2 a really difficult time for a couple, I think. Valerie shared that when we went through Act 2 in our lives, our children were in high school. And she's right, our intimacy was down, our private time was less, everything was just impacted by that. And one of the things that I'm grateful now that I did, I like to run, and so I decided to get out on the road and run in the mornings. And so I did more of that, and boy, did I leave the house with some anger and frustration and come back after talking to the Lord out on the trail feeling a whole lot better about my life, kind of like I just needed to do that. I needed to get it out there, drop it off somewhere. In Watertown is where I remember doing most of it. And by the time I got back to the house, I was ready to be a real human being again. But there were times in between where I wasn't a very nice guy, and I was angry, and mainly feeling sorry for myself. Feeling sorry for myself for why isn't my wife more attentive to my needs? And then the Lord would do business with me on the trail, and I would come back feeling a little better, like, okay, I got to get my act together here and move on from there. The good news is Act 3 comes after Act 2. And I feel like that's where we are today. The kids do, in fact, eventually leave the house. You have a few more financial resources than maybe you did earlier. You have a lot more privacy, a lot more freedom. It's sort of like revisiting Act 1 with maybe just older bodies, but a lot more wisdom, right? You have a lot more wisdom, and you get to sort of reinvent your lives again. And frankly, Valerie and I our marriage has been sort of rekindled in this last part of our lives together. And we hope we have a lot more years, but we're really enjoying this part of our life. But my concern is that so many couples don't get through Act 2 without permanent damage. And that's what my prayer is for you. That's what my hope is for you, is that you will not let those building blocks build up to the point where you can't get past them when the kids are gone and your lives return to some sense of normalcy. Because patterns are formed, rhythms are established in Act 2 that can be really debilitating to a marriage. And so my hope would be that you would fight your way through that and recognize that there are better days ahead if you can hang in there during some of the tougher times of your marriage. Just a couple of quick reminders at the end. One is, I discovered that the closer I followed the Lord, the more my wife loved me. If my actions and words reflected the Lord, it was easier for our sex life, and it was easier for us just to really be in love with each other. The further I was away from the Lord, the less and more difficult those things became. So, like we said last week, God first, spouse second. If you put God first, your spouse will honor that, he or she will respect that, and your sex life will benefit from that. Sex begins outside of the bedroom. That's something we men don't always figure out, but that, it starts in a lot of other places in the house besides the bedroom. And the better we behave ourselves in those places, the more fortunate we're going to be in our bedroom if we hope for those kinds of outcomes. You should find things to do together that are not sexual. Valerie mentioned walking, playing games, watching TV shows that you both enjoy. You're just finding joint activities that are non-sexual. And it really adds credibility and depth to your marriage that then in turn can really improve and cherish your sex life. And then just take care of yourself physically. I always think if I am feeling good physically, I feel like I'm more interested in sex with my wife than if I don't feel good physically. And I think sometimes people that are having trouble with their sex lives they just don't feel good. They're just not physically feeling good, and as a result of that, it's difficult to feel like you really want to have a sexual life with your spouse. And finally, I've already said it, but don't let Act 2 stop you from enjoying Act 3. We're in the midst of that now, and it's worth the wait, and it's worth the investment.
So I think we're gonna turn to a time of questions as far as within couples. So we're gonna have 10 minutes this time. Last time we went a full 20 minutes. This time we're gonna spend 5 minutes on each of the questions. And so just as we did if you're in person or you're online, we'll show 2 slides just for you and your spouse. For people in the room, feel free to kind of spread out if you want to, just with your spouse. Find some place to discuss it. Online, I'd encourage you, if you're not able to right now because you have kids, do this later. But if you are able to, lock the door on your bedroom, wherever you're at right now, and have some time just to discuss these questions. So we'll give you 10 minutes, 5 minutes for each question, just to discuss this with your spouse. So we'll go to that. So the first set of questions will come up on the screen, and just want to encourage you to discuss them with your spouse. If you finish before 5 minutes, you can discuss it with another couple next to you if you want to, or just kind of sit quiet if you'd like to as well. So here we go. So we're going to come back now just for a time of sharing, and we each just had just a minute that we were going to add to each of for each of us. I just wanted to quickly talk about your bedroom. Just a couple of thoughts I had. If you have small children, one of the best investments you can have is a doorknob that locks. And if you do not have that, I would challenge you, no joke, to go and do that this week. I think even also to make your bedroom a place that you enjoy being. Whether it's something as simple as new sheets or new decorations or whatever, to make it a place that you enjoy spending time in. I also, and this is again, I know there's different circumstances where this isn't possible. If you have kids, if at all possible, to not have your kids in your bedroom. It's one of the things I really appreciate about Becky. Early on, our kids, we tried to have them in a separate bedroom. We had them in a little basket when they first were born, or a bassinet, whatever it is, a basket. Moses was put in a basket, so we put him in a cardboard box. Yeah, fire pet. But one of the things I loved early on is Beck really wanted that space. And so even if it meant getting out of bed in the middle of the night and go picking him up and bringing him into the room to feed him, I just was grateful for that space and really trying to make it a place where it was for Beck and I. Even last night, we obviously don't have a perfect record. Our daughter spent the night in our bedroom last night on the floor beside us. And so it's a little bit of a wrestling match with kids, but I want to challenge you to really make your bedroom a place that's yours. It's not kids hanging out all the time, kids sleeping in bed with you. If you need to even kick your German Shepherd out of your bed, get a good kennel. They'll be fine. But I just wanted to add that.
Okay, I had two quick things. This book I've just started reading, and it's actually really good. It's called His Needs, Her Needs, and we've literally had this book for 16 years. I think we got it when we first got married, and I just started reading it. It's just kind of cool because the author talks about just the top 5 needs for a man and the top 5 needs for a woman. It just kind of, it's good because I think we forget that sometimes, like we have needs, and what are those things, and how can we help fill those needs for our spouses. And this is just kind of a personal tip for wives. But one thing, I've never been the one to initiate sex typically, but if you want to do something and spice it up a little bit, it works for us because our kids are not at home right now during the day, and he has a flexible work schedule. So this is maybe TMI, but this, yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Val. Don't listen to Val.
Tell us what the pastor does during the day.
Yeah. No, but sometimes I will just text him to come home and it literally takes 30 minutes. Round trip.
Hey, now let's stop right there.
So I mean, seriously, if you want to do something and invest, it literally, if your kids aren't home during the day, if you have a flexible work schedule, maybe preferably not at your office, unless you are the only one, I don't know, let's not get into that. But that's just something that I've been able to do to make it work a little better for us. And literally, ladies, I'm guaranteeing, if you text him and be like, hey, you want to come home? You would be surprised. Doesn't matter how busy the day is, they will make it work.
I just start canceling appointments is what I do. My schedule's wide open.
That's a foolproof tip for you.
I love it.
Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. I have my phone. Okay, that was really good. Nice. So the thing I was just going to share after some conversation is I have a husband who has worked in education his whole life. And education is loaded with the female variety. And if my husband walks out the door in the morning with me nagging, ragging, all the things at him, and then he gets to walk into a building where there's women that are going to appreciate him, respect him, treat him with honor, all the things that they do when you are the superintendent of schools, well then, wow, I'm setting him right up to walk into a trap. Never mind, I'm setting myself up. If I only am thinking the negative and dwelling on the negative, something needs to change. And I have a tendency toward the critical. Call it personality, I don't know. And so it's just important. Your mind needs to be in the game of marriage, that he's going to work every day. And there are going to be women waiting there, not with necessarily bad intentions, but they can sure turn into that if I'm making life difficult. So, words. I would say words, thoughts. Be disciplined in them. I think that can help us.
And just a quick closing thought from my end, it would just be patterns that are either forming, have formed in your marriage that are maybe destructive is too strong of a word, but aren't helpful. And oftentimes it comes back to hurt your sex life. One of the things I was involved at a men's retreat about 2 weeks ago. 12 men were there, and we were sharing a lot about our childhoods. And I was surprised at how often alcohol weaved its way in and out of the picture. Never in a positive light, always in a destructive or difficult light. And it seems like on TV, alcohol and sex go together, and it always looks wonderful. But in real life, I think that's not always the case. In fact, my guess is that oftentimes isn't the case. And so anytime, I always worry for couples that maybe think one leads to the other. We have some alcohol and we have sex, and that pattern begins. And I think it can be kind of destructive to do that. Valerie and I have found mornings have been better for us than evenings for a variety of reasons. Evenings were full of, our thoughts are full of all kinds of clunky stuff from the day, whereas mornings tend to be a little fresher time and new beginning time. And alcohol is never part of the picture in the morning. And so it's just kind of a nice pattern that we've fallen into that I think have really helped us in our sex lives.
Oh, that's so good. We wanted to open it up for any questions that anybody has. And I don't know if we have an extra microphone that we can bring to folks or not. They can borrow one from up here too. I think they got one back there. We got a question over here. Any questions online too? If you want to post a question online and let us know that way too. I'll try to see if I can get to it to do that. But
it's not really a question. It's more something that I think maybe somebody out there needs to hear. We struggled with infertility for 3 years, and it made sex just look so different and awful for quite some time. And I wish that I would have turned to God and to our church a lot sooner, but I think that kind of the surface impression of like couples in the church is that you go forth and multiply and have babies and live this happy life, and I wasn't able to do that, and it turned out to be the majority of like my body's issues, and I just felt like such a failure. We have a son now, thank you, like it's amazing, but I just don't want women to feel like that's your only role in a marriage is to have a baby and to have sex, to have children. Like you and your husband's relationship is so important on so many other levels, and I wish that I would have been able to see that sooner when we were struggling.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Like just that applies to so many couples. And oftentimes what I'll hear couples say that are struggling with infertility, it turns this wonderful thing into this mechanical like thing of figuring it out and just total frustration. I think Satan just loves to take infertility and just totally twist it and just put a huge like divide within a marriage. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much for doing that. Any other questions anybody has? And I don't know if there's any questions that come in online. I'm not sure if there's a way to grab those either, but does anybody else have a question or a thought as well? Over here, Tasha. Again, if there's any questions that come in online, if someone just wants to kind of share them, we can answer those too. Tasha? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have you switch mics.
Hello?
There we go.
Okay. I was just saying I feel weird sharing this just because my husband had to leave, he had to go to work. But he's very open about his pornography struggle early on in our marriage. And when we talk to couples about pornography, it kind of seems like we get like two responses. Either they think that it's okay, it's normal, it's just what men do, or they think it's like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And I would just say for us, we had to go through 2 hard years of counseling. And so I just kind of wanted to just encourage couples, like if your husband or wife, more likely husband, is struggling with porn, one, it's not okay, it's not normal. But as women, we need to give grace to them, and we need to be willing to put in the hard work, because Will and I have a better marriage now than we could have ever imagined pre-coming out with the pornography addiction. So it's not a death sentence.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that as well. That's really, really good. Anybody else have a question or a thought? Again, just to acknowledge people online. Is there any questions online that we should try and take? No? Okay. All right. I think we're going to close. So one of the things that we've been trying to do at the end, last week, Melmers prayed for each other. And just to encourage spouses to begin praying for each other, Beck and I are going to close in praying for each other and also for all of you. And so if you'd pray with me. Lord, we're just so thankful for tonight. And I just give you thanks that all of this was possible. I have to believe that Satan doesn't love us talking about marriage. Again, it's something that's so easy to feel shameful about or broken about, and yet, God, it's a gift that you've given us. And so I give you thanks for tonight. I give you thanks for every single couple who is with us in person or online right now. I pray that we would bless this area of their marriage. I pray that there would be conversations, God, and I know maybe some hard conversations. It's worth going to counseling about if it's something that can't really be worked out without maybe a third party brought in, God. And so I just ask you bless this area of our marriages, Lord, that it would be a life-giving, wonderful, joy-filled area of our marriage. And God, I thank you so much for my wife Becky and the blessing she is to me. And I can't imagine a greater partner to walk through life. And so I thank you for the woman she is. I thank you for the ways that she's constantly running to you. The days that I'm off, the days that I'm off track, the days I'm trying to figure out things my own way, God, I'm so thankful that she comes alongside of me and gently brings me back to you. I give you thanks for this area of our marriage and it being at the most life-giving place we've ever been as a couple, God. And I'm so thankful for just the ways that you've worked inside of us. And I'm just so thankful for her and the blessing that she is to me. And I just give you thanks for each day that we've had together, not to mention each year.
Jesus, I am just also thankful for tonight. Thank you for each one of the couples here. Lord, would you just go with us tonight and just work in our marriages? Would you give us just the right idea of what sex should look like? Just our mentality, God, I pray that you would just set that right. Would you just heal any area that we might just be hurting from, Lord? I don't know what that might be for everybody, but I just pray that we would be able to hand that over to you, that you would just heal those places in each one of us. Would you just continue to heal marriages, Lord? I just feel like it's been a tough year, and we just need that healing, God. We need your strength, and we just need you to be right in the center of this, because it just seems like it's not possible without you. Lord, I'm grateful for Adam too, even though I probably don't say it that often. I'm grateful for just the fact that you put the two of us together, and just how he takes care of our family. Jesus, would you just help him just to grow to know you more each day? Would you just help him to continue to trust you just to walk with you, God. That's the biggest thing that I want for him, and just for him to know how much you are loved, or how much he is loved by you, Lord. Would you just help each one of us to know how loved we are by you, God? Would you just help us to realize what the purpose of sex is, and that is just to know you more? Would you just ingrain that in our minds and in our souls, that we would just have a healthy perspective of sex? And again, Lord, I'm just thankful for each couple just here and online tonight, and would you just go with us the rest of this week? In your name, amen.
Amen. So next week is week 3. It's our last week. We're going to be talking about conflict and our spouse not being the enemy. And I think, again, it's going to be another powerful week, just talking about something that we don't discuss enough. And so I want to encourage you to come back, either in person or online, but have a fantastic rest of the week. And thank you so much for joining us.